Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm Kathryn Hansen, and in today's episode, Coach Julie and I want to help you reframe how you think about recovery. If you've ever believed that stopping binge eating is a very long, very difficult road, we're going to invite you to change that mindset and help you see that ending the destructive habit of binging is actually the easy path. The truly hard path is continuing to binge, or binge and purge, and restrict. Even if it seems like acting on the urges to binge is easier in the moment, ease never comes from going down that habitual pathway. Ease also never comes from trying to control your weight through depriving your body of enough food. It comes from nourishing your body and stepping away from that exhausting binge and restrict cycle. Recovery absolutely has challenges, but it's never as hard as continuing to binge. Before we get started, I want to remind you about the new Brain Over Binge podcast guide that I introduced in the previous episode. It's a simple indexed PDF that organizes all of the episodes so far into over 85 recovery topics, which makes it easy to find the episodes that are most relevant to you. The guide is a practical tool to help you make the most out of the podcast, and it's only $2.99. You can get it at brainoverbinge.com/podcast-guide, and that link is also in the show description. And now Coach Julie and I will talk about why choosing recovery is choosing more ease. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kathryn. So good to be here with you.
We're going to be talking about the easy path today, and that may seem like an interesting topic if you're listening and struggling with binging, because you may think, easy, this is not easy. None of this is easy. And we totally understand, and we want to kind of walk you through it and help you see that recovery is actually the easy path.
Yes, in so many ways, it is the easy path. This is a lesson that I did with the group, and it really resonated for people. And so I thought it would be a great thing to bring up here on the podcast, because it's really a way of reframing the whole path of recovery as a coming home to yourself, because it truly is so much easier to live binge-free than to live in that state of binging or purging all the time. So there are many nuances to this, and I'm eager to explore them with you.
Yeah, I love that coming home to yourself phrase. And I heard that on the group call. You did this lesson with the group, like you mentioned, and it really hit me too. Like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's coming home to yourself. It's not developing a whole new life. It's not improving every aspect of yourself. It's not perfecting your body or your diet, anything like that. It's just coming home.
Yeah. And it truly is so much easier. I just want to put this question out there to everyone to think as we're going through this, like keep an open mind and keep asking yourself, what if it's so much easier? What if what we offer to you here is so much easier than what you've been doing? Right. And obviously, as we always talk about, it starts with eating adequately, right? Like eating adequately, expecting and allowing urges and celebrating is so much easier than restricting and binging and purging and beating yourself up. Hands down, right? It's just, like nourishing your body until you're good and full, and then letting urges move through you, and then saying, go me. That's so much easier.
Yeah. And just take the urges as an example. I hear from people all the time, like they tell me it's so hard to not act on the urge. It's so hard to be with the urge. But then on the other hand, they also tell me acting on the urge is so hard. Binging is painful. Binging causes me all these consequences. Binging makes me sick. Binging is creating a plethora of consequences in my life. So that's really what's hard. It's acting on them. And yes, there can be some discomfort not acting on them. But when you really look and you really look at what happens when I don't act on the urge and what happens when I act on the urge, what happens when you act on the urge is much harder.
Exactly. Binging always and only makes everything worse. I call it destructive discomfort. Why? Because you have the hell of the binge and you've just reinforced that neural pathway. So you've just ensured that it's going to come back bigger and stronger. And it's just going to get harder and harder over time versus allowing urges, which gets easier and easier over time.
Yeah. And just kind of knowing that and coming to terms with that with yourself is really helpful. Like, hey, what I'm doing right now is hard. Acting on these urges, not eating enough food, and really seeing that and looking at recovery, what if that's actually less hard? And I think just having that conversation is an initial place to start. And then how
Okay.
else could people use this idea of just
Yeah, so many other, I tried to like give people the contrast, right? So there's the idea of, as we talked about in a prior podcast, of the magic of consistency over time. So all of those small changes that you make that add up over time versus expecting immediate results and then giving up, right? Like people think, oh, I didn't binge for a day, so like I should be into my natural size body and urges should never come back. Right. It doesn't work that way. Like what we're not offering a quick fix here, right? We're talking about months to a year, right? To truly change the brain and to land in the body that you're meant to be in. But that patience and those small changes, so much easier than the fallacy of like, there's some quick fix to this, because there just isn't. That's not how life is.
Yeah, I like that. Just reframing the consistency and what you need to do every day to stay on the path to recovery, reframing that as the easy path. So instead of like, I have to do this, this is so difficult, I have to do this every day in order to, keep myself on track. It's like, hey, I get to do this. This is actually the more smooth way. This is actually the easier way, feeding my body every day. Of course, that's easy. Would you tell someone else, like, let's say you had a best friend that was like, oh, I want to go down this path of restriction and binging, or I want to go down this path of nourishing my body, eating enough, and allowing my body to be regulated and be the weight that's meant to be. Well, which path would you tell them was the hard path? You would absolutely tell them the hard path was the restricting and binging. So, like, really seeing that for yourself, that even if that path can be long as far as deconditioning the urges, finding a formula that works for your eating, even if it can like go on a while as far as having practice and making it feel natural, it's still the easier way.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, the next piece or another nuance of this is embracing the reality of being a messy and imperfect human, and that everything in life is imperfect, including how we eat and how we recover. So embracing imperfection versus expecting perfectionism, which is a fallacy. Like perfection doesn't exist. So you're chasing after something that is an impossible, unattainable standard. That's hard, right? The easy path, the one we offer here, is saying like, it's going to be imperfect. You're going to have learning moments. You might overeat sometimes. You might get it wrong with like an amount of food. You may even binge a couple of times in between as you're recovering. None of that means that you're off the path. What it means is you're a messy human like all of us, and embracing that, expecting that, that's easy.
Yeah, and then you don't get those huge swings like as far as the highs and lows. I think when we're aiming for perfection and trying to be restrictive and then falling off of that, of course, because the body needs food and binging, you get those huge swings where you feel like you're doing everything perfect and then you're like, I've blown it, everything's gone, everything's a
Exactly,
mess.
exactly,
Whereas
exactly,
if you
exactly.
accept imperfection, you're like, oh, I ate a little too much food at this meal. Let me, kind of adjust going forward. And you get some little swings maybe as far as like not feeling like you're eating the way you'd like to be eating. And then other days really feeling like you're nourishing yourself well. But it's much smaller ups and downs and you just
That's
keep
right.
going. And that's much
That's
easier than
right.
those wild swings.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. Exactly. So, so true. Which ties into having a growth mindset versus having that black and white all or nothing thinking, right? Easy path, growth mindset. I'm not there yet. I'm learning. Mistakes are how I learn. This is all part of growth versus there's only one way to do it and it's got to be this way. And if I don't do it this way and I don't do it right every day, I'm off, done, finished, right? It's like every moment is a chance to grow. Every moment, even the ones where you're like, that choice wasn't what I wanted to make. Okay, good. Chance to learn. You're either winning or you're learning. And tying into that, again, easy versus hard to me is acceptance of what is versus this need for rigid control. Again, because we can't attain that rigid control, right? And that all comes from fear. So, this idea of like just accepting what is. This is the body I'm in today. This is where I'm at in my journey. This is my level of hunger. This is my appetite. acceptance versus no, I have to eat this many calories. I have to do it this way. I should only be hungry at this time, right? Like we can't control those things.
Yeah, it's just kind of letting it be easier all around by accepting what is or allowing what is, accepting your natural body signals, accepting like whatever emotions may be arising, accepting whatever urges may be arising, and using that as information to adjust instead of trying to rigidly control everything, which is basically impossible.
Exactly. And then another area where I offer this is the easy path is I talk about taking weight out of the equation, right? Letting go of that fixation on the scale and weight and your body size, and instead focusing on all the non-weight benefits of recovery, which are instantaneous. You get them right away. Improvement in mood and energy and digestion and sleep and integrity and finances. All of those things come within a day of being binge free. But if it's all about your size and your shape and the scale, that's just a recipe for hard.
Yeah. And like noticing all the ways life gets easier when you don't binge. I think that's really helpful. And of course, we all know life is never going to be easy. It's
Yeah.
hard, right? In a lot of ways. But when you add binging in there, it gets much harder. So noticing when you take binging out of the equation, how much money do I get back every day? Like it is so hard to spend money on binge food, right? What do I get back in energy? What do I get back in sleep? And really seeing like how does life get
Right.
easier even when life is hard? Take binging
Yes.
away, it's much easier to handle the heart of life.
Yeah. I mean, boy, oh boy, is life hard right now for many of us in the world, right? Like there's a lot going on that feels very heavy and very hard right now. And when we add binging to that, it just exacerbates everything. And it really zaps you of having the resources to manage what's arising. So it's not going to make life easy, but it's certainly going to make whatever comes easier to manage.
And that's where the lower brain will try to lie to you. The urges
Mhm.
will say, binge and you'll feel better. Binge and you'll be able to avoid the heart of life. Binge and you'll be able to make things easier for yourself. And that's just never the case. No matter how hard life is, binging never makes it any easier. Like, even if there's pleasure and distraction in the moment, it always makes things harder for yourself on the other side. And it never brings you closer to being the person you want to be in these difficult moments of life.
Totally. Yeah. And another area where recovery is the easy path, right, is this idea of dressing for the body that you're in now versus trying to fit into clothing that fit you when you were weight suppressing or restricting or engaging in really harmful behaviors. Saying, like, this is my body today. I'm going to wear clothing that fits and feels good now. That's the easy path. And the amazing thing is that in doing that, it frees up so much brain space because you get dressed, you open your closet, there all you see are things that actually fit and feel good now. And it's a really beautiful way of showing your self-love, showing your body love and respect right now. Whereas the other path, trying to squeeze into that weight suppressed clothing, that's abusive, torturous. You'd never do it to a child or a pet.
That's a great example, like seeing how would you treat someone else? It's just not something you would ever do to someone. So yeah, taking care of yourself is the easy path.
Yeah. And then to that end, also, another area that we spoke about during that lesson was this idea of in recovery, a lot of things can come up. Emotions, uncomfortable emotions are going to come up. Also, that you're going to have more brain space to notice patterns that maybe aren't serving you. And so on this path, you might start actually setting boundaries, lovingly speaking your truth, things that we've spoken about on prior podcasts, but hiding what you're actually feeling or thinking or actually needing for yourself is the hard path. And when we make space for recovery and we're not engaging in binging anymore, suddenly other things start to come to the surface. And it's easier, it can be uncomfortable. That doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable, but it's so much easier to lovingly speak your truth and set loving boundaries than to continue to live life in a way that is disingenuous to who you are and what you need.
Yeah, and I think recovery too allows you to get in touch with who you are and what you need. If you're so
Mhm.
focused on food, binging, all the effects of binging, a lot of times you kind of just lose touch with it. So understand that if you've just stopped binging and purging, you may not fully know yet, but just see how much easier it is when you remove that from your life to start to figure out who you are and what you need, and then to start speaking that in the areas of life where you may feel that that's necessary.
Yeah, totally. So another thing I talk about a lot, and we've done podcasts on this, but it's about noticing progress and celebrating without condition versus focusing on what you haven't done, how far you have to go, or trying to undercut anything you want to celebrate with a yeah, but. So I'm always offering to people like, get comfortable celebrating and noticing what's working. That's the easy path. And when you do that, you get more of what you want. You start seeing what's working, you start noticing those things, and that grows, that expands, right? And it's so much easier, even though people tell me, oh, but it's so hard to do that. But it's like, actually, no, it's so much easier to do that than to constantly be undercutting yourself and shutting down anything that's working.
Yeah, and seeing your progress, seeing like every adequate meal that you eat, celebrating yourself for that. And that may feel different. Like just because something feels different or uncomfortable doesn't mean it's harder, right? It could just be different and uncomfortable. So like reframing the words that you use, and it's not
Yes.
about lying to yourself. Like really, if something feels challenging, it's okay to admit that, but it's just like looking at the alternative. What's the alternative? Binging, purging, restricting, that's hard. Okay, so let me reframe what I'm doing now as productive discomfort, as an opportunity, as a way to really promote that growth mindset. Let's stop saying it's hard. Again, it doesn't mean not acknowledging your experience. It just means reframing it a little bit so that you see it as the easier way.
Yes, yes. And again, we get good at what we practice, right? Easy is earned with practice.
Mhm.
It takes practice. So, of course, if you're not used to celebrating yourself, that's not going to feel comfortable or normal in the beginning. It's going to feel awkward. But again, the truth is noticing what's working, seeing your progress, celebrating every step, it's so much easier than beating yourself up and being like, yeah, but I didn't do it yesterday. I did it today, but I didn't do it yesterday. That's hard. Yeah,
Yeah, I like the word awkward you used too. Like I talked about reframing things, and maybe it's like finding new words to describe the experience of recovery as far as like how it feels when you do something that supports you, as opposed to going down that old habitual pathway that only leads to pain. Just see all these steps that you're taking along the way as promoting your growth, as
right.
turning you into the person you want to be, as giving you practice. That's a great way to frame something that feels challenging is, hey, this is practice. Like every athlete who goes out and practices their skill, they could see it as, oh, this is so hard, I can't do it. Or like, this is how I get better.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, I am not an athlete, but I love that you bring that in because you are an athlete. And I imagine that with every sport that you learned, there was a phase where you practiced a lot to get good at a specific part of that. And I am a musician, or at least a former musician. And I never looked at a piece of music and expected that the first time I played it, it was going to feel comfortable. To the contrary, I thought it was going to be awkward. And I'm a flutist. I'd have to figure out the fingerings. I would break down the measure. I would play it fast. I would play it slow. I would play it backwards. I would play it forwards. I mean, there were all kinds of things that you do as a musician, one measure at a time, sometimes one portion of a measure at a time, one set of notes at a time, right? And I never expected that I was just going to be, it's perfect. It just doesn't work that way.
It's such a great example. I feel like any skill you learn, and listeners can think of examples in their own life. The more we tell ourselves, it's too hard, I can't do it, the less we're going to want to practice. So I feel like that's a
Exactly.
big point of this conversation is for
Yes.
you to kind of stop telling yourself that recovery is too hard. It's too difficult. I can't do
Right.
it. Break
Exactly.
it down. If it feels too hard, I heard a quote the other day. It's like, if a task feels too hard, it means your first step is too big. So make that first step
Mm,
smaller. Think of
love
what
it.
littlest thing can I do to bring
That's right.
myself forward, and then it stops feeling so hard.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I always say you go one breath, one urge at a time. You only need to deal with now, right now. That's it. That's the only thing you have to think about. And right now, if you're binge free, go you. You're doing it. That's it. Done. Recovery can feel very big, like it's this lifetime commitment. But if the truth is that you can only do it one moment, one breath at a time. And if right now, you're present with what is, whatever's arising, any emotion, any discomfort, you can be with it. You're meant to feel it. You can breathe with it. You can slow down. I start all of the calls with mindful breathing. I talk about checking in versus checking out with food. So important. And that's the easy path.
Yeah, and something that's interesting about that is in the moment when you're having an urge, let's say like your urges are very connected to emotions and you have an urge, the easier thing in that exact moment is to follow the urge. Like if you just look at it in that moment. But we're asking you to take a more bigger picture perspective on this, like what's easy. So you can't think of what's easy in the moment. You have to be able to think of it from a more encompassing viewpoint. So I really like what you're saying is like being present. And just because in that moment, it may be the easier thing to do is to follow the urge, you have to think about the next moment, and in the next moment, what's it going to feel like? So just being in every moment and realizing that the easiest decision in one moment isn't the easiest decision overall, if that's making sense.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. So it's about being with what is in the moment and trusting that even if it's uncomfortable in this moment, the choice to expect and allow urges is going to make it easier for you over time.
Yeah. Like checking out, taking that easy way out, quote unquote. That's not easy. That's actually the more difficult path. And I guess maybe that's like we're teaching you this is an easy path. We're not saying it's easy necessarily in every moment.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, that's a kind of long list of things, but I hope that everybody's getting the sense like, maybe it is easier. And maybe what I've been doing is actually the harder path.
Yeah. And opening up to the lower brain's faulty messages as far as it telling you it's too hard, you can't do it, acting on the urge is the easier way. Like you will have those messages. So it comes back to expecting those messages, knowing that when you have those messages that it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. The lower brain is actually trying to take the most efficient route, which is what you've always done. So to redirect it, in those specific moments, it may not feel like the easier path, but it is. And it gets
Yeah,
easier over time. Eventually, your urges are going to feel so easy to dismiss. The ones that remain, oh, that's just an urge, no big deal.
no
And
big deal.
celebrate yourself when you have that feeling of, wow, this is actually easy. Like really celebrate that because you've arrived. Like you've seen the lower brain for what it is. You don't need to act on it anymore. And then also with the eating adequately, like anytime you notice you eat an adequate meal, you feel satisfied and you think, oh, wow, this is actually so much easier than restricting. This is easy. I can nourish myself. Really
That's right.
celebrate yourself
That's
for
right.
that
That's
because
right.
it just means you've come so far.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So I send everyone out in podcast land with that challenge. Like ask yourself in each moment, what if this is actually the easy path? And also notice where you start seeing that it is actually so much easier and really celebrate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Julie. I do want to mention a little bit about the group as far as how do you all in the group work on this together?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I mean, first of all, if you enjoy these kinds of ideas, I'm always bringing lessons to the group. We're always having these kinds of discussions. And then the beautiful thing is that in the coaching that I give, which is available to people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? There's written coaching all the time. I'm very responsive. But what I see is that these themes come up over and over again. So you start seeing other people in the group saying, oh my goodness, this is the easy path. I'm choosing the easy path today. Go me. Or you'll see people celebrating, or you'll see people saying, I'm allowing some discomfort today because I know that I can do this. Right. And so that is a place where every single thing we talked about today, adequate eating, dressing for the body you're in, accepting your body, being with what is, having people cheering you on and celebrating without condition. All of that support is available to everybody there.
in the beginning, if you've never had support, if you've never been part of something like that, or even had any coaching, it may feel hard, right? In the moment, like that feels challenging to open up to people. That feels hard to, talk about my issues. But as you've talked about, like you start to see that is the easier path than keeping it inside, than having this struggle just be on you. Like when you open up and you seek support, even though in the moment it could feel like the harder thing, it's actually the easier path to get the support that you need.
Absolutely. So I hope everybody comes and joins us there because we will help you make it easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for having this conversation.
Thank you, Kathryn.
Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this episode has helped you see that recovery does not have to feel like the harder path, and that letting go of binging, restriction, and unrealistic weight goals can actually bring so much more ease and freedom into your life. If this message resonated with you and you want more support, I want to let you know that Coach Julie is hosting a free call on Saturday, May 31st at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a great opportunity to learn more about one-on-one coaching and group coaching, to get your questions answered, and to connect with Julie. It's free and open to everyone, and the Zoom link to join is in the show description. Also in the show description, you can check out the other Brain Over Binge resources, including my books, which are Brain Over Binge and the Brain Over Binge Recovery Guide. You can learn about one-on-one coaching with me or Coach Julie. You can check out group coaching, which we talked a lot about in this episode, and also the self-paced online course, which is just $18.99 per month with no commitment. As always, I appreciate you listening, and until the next episode, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the host of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey.